Texas politics are known for their unique blend of conservatism, independence, and deep-rooted state pride. Over the years, Texas has been a stronghold for the Republican Party, with issues like gun rights, border security, and economic freedom often at the forefront. The state's rapid growth, particularly in urban areas like Austin, Dallas, and Houston, has also brought shifting demographics and immigrant trends, leading to conversations about the future political landscape.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Conservative dominance nowadays, Republicans have held control of all statewide offices since the 1990s, emphasizing conservative values like low taxes, limited government, and traditional social policies. Regarding the presence of the Democratic Party, Texas is not originally conservative. Democratic dominance, 1845, mid-1990s. From 1848 until Dwight D. Eisenhower's victory in 1952, Texas voted for the Democratic candidate for president in every election except 1928, when it did not support Catholic Al Smith. The Democrats were pro-slavery pre-Civil War, as Abraham Lincoln was a Republican in the North. 2. Increasing Republican strength, 1960 to 1990. And Texas is so red. Why? The events from the 1960s. 1. National Democratic Party shift, 1960s. Civil rights movement. One of the most significant factors contributing to the Republican rise in Texas was the National Democratic Party's increasing support for civil rights in the 1960s. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, both championed by Democratic President Lyndon B. Johnson, a Texan, alienated many conservative white Southern Democrats. These voters, who opposed the federal government's intervention in issues like desegregation and voting rights, began moving toward the Republican Party. Southern strategy. In response to this growing discontent, the Republican Party, under figures like Richard Nixon, adopted the Southern strategy, which sought to attract disaffected Southern white voters by appealing to their conservative views on race, states' rights, and social issues. As a result, Texas, like many other Southern states, began to shift toward the GOP.
And don't forget to grab your Texas shirt. Wear it loud, wear it proud, and show everyone you know just how different and special Texas really is. The link is in the description below.
2. Economic and business climate. Oil boom. Texas experienced massive economic growth due to the oil boom in the 1970s. The Republican Party's pro-business policies, including deregulation and low taxes, resonated with Texas's growing business class. Texas entrepreneurs, oilmen, and business elites found the GOP's economic agenda more appealing than the Democratic Party's increasing support for regulations and social welfare programs. Suburban growth. Rapid suburbanization, particularly around cities like Houston, Dallas, and Austin, also played a key role. Suburban voters were typically more affluent, pro-business, and concerned about taxes, making them natural allies for the Republican Party. Cultural conservatism. Social issues. During the 1970s and 1980s, Texas became increasingly socially conservative, particularly on issues such as abortion, gun rights, and religious freedom. The National Democratic Party, perceived as becoming more liberal on these social issues, lost support among socially conservative Texans. The Republican Party, emphasizing traditional values, became the party of choice for many Texans. Evangelical Christian influence. The rise of the Christian right during the 1970s and 1980s also played a significant role in Texas politics. Many evangelical Christian leaders, like Jerry Falwell and Pat Robertson, promoted a conservative political agenda. Texas, with its large evangelical population, saw a strong alignment between religious conservatives and the Republican Party, especially on issues like opposition to abortion and the promotion of prayer in schools. Presidential elections. 1964 election. The 1964 election marked a turning point in Texas politics. Despite being the home state of President Lyndon B. Johnson, Texas showed strong support for Barry Goldwater, the Republican candidate. Goldwater's opposition to civil rights legislation and his support for states' rights resonated with many white conservative Texans. Though Johnson won the election, Goldwater's performance in the South indicated a growing conservative shift. 1976 election. Jimmy Carter, a Democrat, won Texas in 1976, but it was the last time a Democratic presidential candidate would do so for decades. By the 1980 election, Ronald Reagan, a conservative Republican, won Texas handily. Reagan's charisma, his strong stance on economic and social conservatism, and his opposition to big government solidified the state's Republican alignment. Reagan Revolution, 1980s. Ronald Reagan's presidency in the 1980s was particularly significant for Texas. His policies of deregulation, tax cuts, and a strong military were widely supported by Texans. His administration also strengthened the link between the Republican Party and the evangelical Christian community, which was growing in influence in the state.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Texas Democratic Party weakness. Internal divisions. The Texas Democratic Party was increasingly divided between its more liberal and conservative wings. While liberal Democrats were gaining influence at the national level, Texas Democrats, often more conservative, found themselves at odds with the National Party's positions on civil rights, social issues, and big government. Defection of conservative Democrats. As the National Democratic Party embraced more liberal policies, many conservative Democrats in Texas began switching to the Republican Party. This included prominent figures like former Democratic Governor John Connally, who switched to the GOP in 1973, and U.S. Senator Phil Gramm, who switched parties in 1983. These defections signaled a broader realignment among Texas voters. Rise of Republican leaders in Texas. George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush. The Bush family played a significant role in the Republican rise in Texas. George H.W. Bush, who served as vice president under Reagan and later as president 1989 to 1993, was a prominent Texan and helped solidify the state's Republican leanings. His son, George W. Bush, later became governor of Texas 1995 to 2000 and president of the U.S. 2001 to 2009, further cementing Texas's role as a Republican stronghold. Governor Bill Clements 1979 to 1983, 1987 to 1991. Bill Clements was the first Republican to be elected governor of Texas since Reconstruction. His election was a significant moment in Texas politics, as it marked the beginning of sustained Republican control of the state's executive office. I think blue or red is not the question. It's based on what most people in Texas care about, and Texan needs trust. Second Amendment and gun rights. Texas has a deep cultural connection to firearms, and gun rights are central to political discussions. The state has loosened gun regulations over time, with constitutional carry laws in place. Immigration and border security. Due to its long border with Mexico, Texas is a focal point for national immigration debates. Politicians here push for strong border enforcement and measures to curb illegal immigration. Economic policies. Texas is known for its business-friendly environment, with no state income tax and policies aimed at attracting corporations and startups. This has fueled significant population and economic growth. Urban versus rural divide. While much of Texas remains conservative, urban areas have increasingly leaned toward more liberal policies, especially on issues like climate change, healthcare, and social justice. Energy and environment. Texas is a leader in both oil and renewable energy, wind, and balancing these interests is a key political issue. While oil remains dominant, there's a growing conversation around the future of energy in the state. Social issues, topics like abortion, LGBTQ+ rights, and religious freedoms are hotly debated, with conservative legislators often pushing for stricter policies in line with traditional values. Texas remains a bellwether state, with its unique political culture playing a pivotal role in shaping national discourse. In Texas, people vote for freedom, pride, economic benefits, the importance of self-defense, and deep-rooted traditional cultural values that connect the people.